멋있어, 멋있어. 소리가 괜찮은 거라 믿고 한번 시작을 해볼게요. 저 사람이 셜록이죠. 떠나간 우크라이나 인들을 기리며. 어느 한 용의자를 지목할 만큼의 단서를 발견할 경우 추리 영역 아이콘 느낌표 뭐? 일단 해보면 알겠지.
Holmes!
뭐야?
Holmes, will you stop that?
아니, 이럴 수가.
You are utterly mad.
아니, 총알이 몇 발이나 있는 거예요?
Stop, Holmes!
Is that you, Watson?
Yes, of course it is. And you almost killed me.
Nonsense. I was aiming for the vases.
Blindfolded?
Watson, quiet, please. I'm trying to concentrate. Ah, Lestrade. What is it this time?
He can see me. Well, here it is, and it's a good one, Mr. Holmes. A gentleman by the name of Peter Carey, also known as Black Peter, has been murdered.
A sailor, most probably.
What happened here?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, how could you?
It's the only exercise I've had all week. A grateful client from Limoges sent me a vase collection this morning. I couldn't think of a better use for it.
You're out of your mind.
I missed 4 out of 10.
Given you were blindfolded, that was very good. Can I have a try?
Am I the only sane one here?
I suppose that Watson is right, Inspector. A little brain work would be preferable now. Do please tell us more about Black Peter.
Peter Carey, born in 1845 and 50 years old. An ambitious sort, he achieved much success in seal and whale hunting around Scandinavia. Retired in 1884 with a small fortune. He invested his money in a property called Woodman's Lee, near Forest Row in Sussex. It was where he lived for 6 years, and where he was found dead yesterday.
Has the investigation already begun?
Yes and no. In fact, this crime is so mysterious that I would prefer you to join me down there.
Give me half an hour to prepare, Inspector.
Take your time and join me there. I have to go through the yard first. The merry men struck again.
What have they done this time?
They robbed a powder reserve. I'll meet you at Woodman's Lee, Mr. Holmes.
I should help Mrs. Hudson here. I also have several appointments that I must keep this afternoon.
I shall go alone then.
왜 왓슨 데려가? 피터 타켈이 살인 사건을 조사하고 산지기의 별장에서 사건 현장을 조사하고 옷장에서 정장을 꺼내입고 산지기의 별장에서 스트레이드 강간과 만나기. 지도부? 피해자의 양력. 타켈이는 블랙피터라는 별명을 가지고 있다. 이거 아까 전에 얘기했던 거. 대화도 다 적혀있어. 저건 뭐 준비 다 하고.
My analysis table. It is useful for my work.
You go along to Peter Carey's house. Mrs. Hudson and I will take care of the mess you've made here.
움직이기 생각보다 힘들구만.
This is where I keep my post. My archive. I can always consult with it if needed. My archive. I can always consult with it if needed.
Oh, what a mess! What a terrible mess!
죄송합니다. 아니 열기? 옷 안 갈아입어?
I cannot leave yet. I am not finished here.
무슨 조사? 뭘 또 조사하라고? 이거? 아니 건너편에 사시는 분을 조사해서 뭐 하게? 아니.
My analysis table. It is useful for my work.
제가 아무리 뭐가 있을까 왁슨 얘기했고 식당은 조사할 수 있는 게 없고 호드슨 부인 죄송하고 여기가 왁슨방? 문은 자동으로 닫히네? 왁슨방에서 내가 조사할 수 있는 게 없고 저희가 내 방인가?
My archive. I can always consult with it if needed.
전부는 아까랑 똑같아. 편장대. 아니 이렇게 꾸밀 수도 있다고? 일단 뭐 깔끔하게 갈까? 너무 부슬부슬하고. 아 근데 마음에 드는 머리가 없네. 안경도 쓸 수 있고 나중에 이렇게 다 변경을 해야 되나 보지? 일단 그냥 아무것도 없는 걸로 하고 짱! 야 무슨 통상복이랑 정장이랑 다를 게 없는데. 복장? 복장. 통상복이면 되겠지. 조사할 건 없어 보이고 이대로 나가면 되나? 움직이 별장. 어디가는 화면도 나쁘지 않네.
Mr. Holmes, I'm over here. Come on.
These footprints appear to be quite large.
신원불명의 발자국. 산지기의 별장 근처 물이 고여있던 땅바닥에 신원불명의 발자국이 찍혀있었다. 불명 살인자의 발자국일 것이다. 발자국에 알맞은 크기의 장화를 찾아봐야겠다.
It seems that the garden was well maintained.
깔끔하게 설치되어 있다. 성지 좋은 정상화 먹는 모양이다.
Mr. Holmes?
그래, I'm home. 저 사람이랑은 정말 상관없네. 잠깐만 더 가야지. 세상에나. 작물을 밟을 수가 없어. 여기 범죄할 거냐?
Mr. Holmes?
그러네.
Inspector Lestrade, when will you remove my husband's body? It's sacrilegious to leave him here like this.
As soon as we can, Mrs. Carey, I assure you. Allow me to introduce you to Mr. Sherlock Holmes. He's a detective. No doubt you've heard of him. I'll wait for you in front of the cabin, Mr. Holmes.
My condolences, Mrs. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
다 물어볼 수 있는 거지?
Madam, can you tell me if you saw or heard anything unusual upon the night of the murder?
At 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard a terrible scream. But I thought nothing of it then. He would scream all the time when he was drunk.
Can you please tell me what occurred on the evening of the murder?
Well, Peter got drunk in the evening. He was in such a terrible temper. Usually whenever that happened, he'd stay all night drinking in his cabin before passing out.
사람가 안 좋은데. 한국인들 취할 때까지 술 마시는 거 좀 적당해야 돼.
Do you remember at what time you found your husband's body?
In the morning, at around 7 o'clock, I noticed the cabin door was open, but I didn't go in to take a look, for I knew my husband would not have liked it. At around 10 o'clock, I dared to glance in through the door and... oh dear.
Was your husband accustomed to receiving visitors?
Oh no, I don't think so. I mean, he didn't really have many friends. We lived quite an isolated life here, after his retirement.
마지막 질문.
The garden is very large and well maintained. Do you employ someone to look after it?
It is true, there is a lot of work, but my husband took care of it himself.
생각보다 성실하네. 뭐지? 뭐 알아볼 수 있는 게 있어? 아, 이렇게 뜨는구나. 회장, 장신구. 원해용 장갑. 오. 꿀박새? 천주교 목. 위로의 말.
You have indeed suffered a great loss, Mrs. Carey. Nevertheless, I believe it will be less of a burden for you soon.
Yes, life with Peter was never easy, but he was still my husband.
He was different, wasn't he, when you first met him upon your return from Plymouth?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. Oh my goodness, but how do you know about that?
Never mind.
다시?
You have indeed suffered a great loss, Mrs. Carey. Nevertheless, I believe it will be less of a burden for you soon.
Yes, life with Peter was never easy, but he was still my husband.
소리여서 다행이네.
He was different, wasn't he, when you first met him upon your return from Plymouth?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. Oh my goodness, but how do you know about that?
이건가?
You undertook a pilgrimage to the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela when you were young. That much is evident from the rosary in your hand. The shortest route for the pilgrim from England to Spain is from Plymouth. I believe that you met Peter Carey as a young sailor there, and you married him soon afterwards.
That is indeed what happened, Mr. Holmes. How extraordinary.
Thank you, madam.
주디스 캐리는 피터와의 불행한 결혼 생활로 힘든 시절을 겪었다. 그녀는 독실한 청교도 신자로 젊은 시절에는 성 제임스 순례길에 오른 적도 있다. 주디스 캐리는 뿔박대가 서식하는 스코틀랜드의 인버네스와 스트레스페이 지역 소나무 숲에서 출생했다. 그녀는 어린 시절에 성 제임스 순례길을 거쳐 산티아고 데 콤페스텔라 대성당을 방문할 정도로 독실한 신자였다. 그래서 오두막이 어디지? 아, 저기다. 잠깐만. 이 근처에는 뭐 없나? 저기 발자국 왜 딱히 없나 보네. 셜록 홈즈는 뛰지 않고. 나왔다.
Peter Carey's body is inside the cabin. We took care not to touch anything.
그래서 나 들어가라고? 오케이.
The door is locked.
Wait just a moment, Mr. Holmes, and I'll open it. I locked it yesterday to ensure that no one should enter the cabin and tamper with the evidence.
Ah, good thinking.
Hello.
What is it, Lestrade?
It seems to me that someone has tried to force it, Mr. Holmes.
Let me see.
플라스틱. 조사하면 되나?
These scratches are fresh. You're right. Someone tried to force open the door.
I swear these scratches were not here yesterday.
Our mysterious visitor came here last night.
Well, he's not the man for the job. This lock is not a difficult one.
Perhaps he did not have the right tool.
그래서 이제 열 수 있는 거지?
What a terrible way to die.
여기서도 일단 조사.
JHN are probably the initials of the owner of this notebook. The pattern of the blood stain indicates that the notebook was not lying on the floor prior to the crime, but it was dropped into the pool of blood after the death of Peter Carey.
중요하고 있고. 전화번호는 아닐 거 아니야.
These abbreviations mean something, but what?
이렇게 가자 되나? 일단
Peter Carey was fully dressed. He was not caught by surprise. It is possible that he knew his murderer. The weapon fully penetrated the body. The force of the blow was immense. This man is in his 50s, yet he still looks quite strong. Peter Carey was impaled to the wall by a whaling harpoon.
D. 아, 이런 것도 있구나. 좋아요. 계속 조사를 할 수 있게끔 해주세요.
This wooden handle is plain and solid. This blood is from the pool underneath the dead body. Peter Carey tried to defend himself with this knife, but he did not succeed. Someone drank from this glass recently.
유리잔은 깨끗이 씻어서 먹지만은
Rum, a sailor's drink. It seemed that Captain Carey was enjoying a drink before he met his death.
이거는 부인의 말과 일치하고요.
The initials PC have been crudely burned. A sailor's work. This aroma is familiar, but to recognize it, I must construct my associations in one picture.
자자자자.
Yes, this is a coarse tobacco, quite strong and very popular among sailors. Peter Carey's boots. They look to be a size 8.
팔문이면은 남자 팔문이면 260 사이즈 정도겠다. 260에서 65 사이즈.
Old navigation instruments, nothing interesting.
아니요, 이거 말고.
The Sea Unicorn. She was the ship that Peter Carey commanded.
여기 있는 사진이라던가 그런 걸 대사를 했나 보지? 선반.
The tooth of a sperm whale, probably from one of Peter Carey's catches. The ship's logs of the Sea Unicorn for the years 1878 to 1884. Peter Carey was her captain. The ship's logs of the Sea Unicorn for the years 1878 to 1884. Peter Carey was her captain.
뭐야, 왜 요주의 물건이야? 그러면서도 가져가지도 못해? 아. 오케이.
These boots don't match the footprints.
이러려고 가져갔구만. 그러면 피터캐리가 아니라는 거네.